Hey, Warrior Saints. Father Chris here. Today, we're going to talk about things in the world, and some of them are a little bit nuts. The headlines in any news media platform that you look at are replete with stories of people having to apologize or recant their tweets or to grovel, really, before people because something they said or did offended someone. Like, really hot in the stories right now are of all these Hollywood, the Harvey Weinsteins and these guys and Ratners and Schwans and all these guys who have sexually assaulted and harassed all these women on set. Steven Seagal's in the news. You switch to sporting events. Just look in any of the ESPN headlines for the last 2 weeks. Lane Kiffin had to apologize because he sent a funny tweet. All of the controversy over the protests about the flag and the national anthem. Everybody's apologizing and angry, and everyone's offended, and everybody's offended, and everybody's offended. And really, what it comes down to, two problems I see, two major problems. The first one, in regards to the allegations of sexual harassment that is rampant all over the place today, especially in Hollywood, and even we see right now currently happening in the special election in the Senate from the state of Alabama. Everybody is being accused of sexual harassment. Steven Seagal, Louis C.K., Harvey Weinstein, as we talked about before. The list just goes on and on. The problem number one is that what you see are boys who shave behaving badly. They're not men behaving like men. They're behaving like boys, right? They are being crass. There is absolutely no gentility. And even many of them, I don't know that I can say many because I don't have the evidence myself, but let's just say at least a lot of these men are behaving in completely inappropriate and even sometimes illegal ways. Like at no point is it ever acceptable for a man to make a woman feel uncomfortable because of sexual advances. She should never be put in that spot. And look, I'm the father of 2 daughters, and so I take that very, very seriously, right? So we see a lot of men not behaving like men. Where's the respect for these women? Are they just literally, do you think of them just as pieces of meat? Some guys do that. This is clearly a fallacy. This is dehumanizing another human being, plain and simple. The second problem, and this is really where I want to focus today, is on this widespread plague of being offended. Now, as I said to you just a minute ago, I have 2 daughters, 13, 11. At some point, I know that they are going to be harassed or flirted with or obnoxiously approached by a boy. And I told my girls very clearly, at no point do you let this get away. I said to them, look, I'm a priest and we're all against violence. We don't want any violence. But I told my girls, if a boy bugs you, you pop him in the nose or worse, right? And if it gets to the point where you can't handle it, then you tell the teacher or you come tell me and I'll take care of it. But in the interim, there is no need to be offended because people say offensive things. And I want my girls to learn how to handle that, not to run to the news media and complain so that someone has to issue an apology. Figure it out. Learn how to work with another human being to get them to stop and cease the behavior that makes you uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that it's sexual harassment because somebody threw a catcall at you. Surely it's tasteless. Surely it's classless. Surely it is not the behavior of a man. But it's not necessarily harassment for a guy to flirt with a girl that he thinks is pretty. Very often that's not done appropriately, but you know what? We don't have to cry about it. Why are we making them so soft? Why are we teaching them to not be able to stand up for themselves? And again, look, I am not talking about some of this very inappropriate type of behavior. Look, I'm not, because I said, I got 2 girls. Man, I want to protect those girls to the end. But I'll tell you something. They're fierce lions, those 2. And they know that if somebody says something that makes them uncomfortable, they stand up for themselves because we're trying to teach them to do that. They also know that at some point, people are just going to say and do stupid things. And so they are learning, not always perfectly, I'm trying to teach them as well. But they know that when people say and do hurtful and offensive things, they are learning to erase that from their mind and to recognize that broken people do broken things. And it doesn't mean that we need to go on the news media and scream and shout about it, right? I'm going to say it again so there's no confusion. There is some behavior that is completely inappropriate. It should never be tolerated. And there are people who need to do some time in jail for some of the behavior that they've done, to be sure. But 99% of it is just someone pretending to be offended for attention or for needs that we may not understand. And it becomes one of those things where we've become an offended and apologizing culture. Rather than these childish ways, let's put ourselves together a little bit and be strong. Look, people offend me every single day. I mean, every day somebody says something, does something that is offensive. I realize I haven't necessarily had all of the terrible, assault type behavior that some of these women in Hollywood have had. So I can't really sympathize with that. Honestly, I think I can in my mind and in my heart. I want to, but I also know that I can't fully sympathize with that. But I do know that most of the affront that people take against me is just like, come on, man. I mean, stupid people do stupid things. Just move on from it. And it doesn't need to be something that is somehow ruins my whole day or needs a press release. You know what I mean? Like, let's learn how to be men. Let's learn how to be women so that we can be strong in the face of those attacks and those assaults. And I'm telling you, it's not going to stop. You can do whatever you want. You can cry all you want. You can make people apologize all you want. But people are people. They've always done it. They're doing it now, and they'll always do it. So rather than, sit back and like whine about it, let's figure out how we're going to be strong enough to deal with it, how we're going to be strong enough to handle it, how we're going to be strong enough to be able to say to another human being, whoa, dude, bad behavior doesn't work like that. I can show you a different way. I can show you what I'm willing to tolerate, and I can show you what I'm not willing to tolerate, right? Can we teach that to our young people? I think we can. St. Paul, in his first epistle to the Corinthians, has this beautiful quote in chapter 13 where he says, when I was a child, I thought like a child. I spoke like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I gave up childish ways. The challenge that I'm putting before us today as warrior saints is to stop thinking in childish ways and to start thinking like true men and women of the gospel of Jesus Christ. To be strong, to be fierce, to be contemplative, reasoning, so that we can understand, look, like I said, broken people do broken things. We're not going to stop that. We can only control the way we respond to that. And I'm saying, don't let someone who behaves like that have power over you. Don't let someone who thinks and acts like that control you and, as they say, get inside your head. Be strong, be fierce. Tell them this behavior is unacceptable. Tell them that this is not something you will tolerate, and then move on from the situation, both physically and emotionally. Let it go, because I promise you this, it's going to happen again tomorrow. Have a great day, Warrior Saints. Let's get out there and let's be strong.